It's our 8th season here in our upstate New York contemporary cottage garden, and the learning never stops.
But if we could go back and tell our early gardening selves just 12 gardening secrets, these would be the ones.
Secret number 1 that I wish we could go back and tell our early gardening selves is you will kill plants, and sometimes plants just die. And here's a perfect example right here. This is our Invincible Mini Malvet hedge, and I call it a hedge because we are clearly missing 2 of the hydrangeas. There are 5 Invincible Mini Malvets right here, 3 of them looking beautiful, 2 of them just not doing it. And they're not treated any differently than the other 3. Sometimes plants just don't thrive in your garden and you can't figure out why. So as a beginner gardener, don't worry about it. Sometimes you can't control Mother Nature. You can do everything correctly and they're just not going to thrive.
Although, maybe you should tell everyone about that very early on Pugster pink butterfly bush that I loved so much.
Okay, so sometimes plants don't thrive on their own, or sometimes as gardeners, we can very easily kill them. In this example, the Pugster pink butterfly bush that Christopher really wanted was down in the front in the pear-shaped island, and it was in full sun and it was kind of looking a little bit sad, and I thought it needed more water. So as a new gardener, I thought more water, more water, more water, and every day it would look worse. And it's funny because now we know through experience that butterfly bushes and water don't mix. So yeah, sometimes you will just kill a plant by trying to help it as well. Either way, be prepared for some losses and it's gonna be okay. Each one is a learning opportunity.
Secret number 2 is feed your soil. When we first started gardening, like most, we began mulching with black bark mulch in big bags that we got from the big box store. And over the season, it would look like charcoal and kind of bleach out. And from season to season, it really didn't improve any of the soil. It just made it look black and charcoaly around the plants. So what we came to realize is, watching Gardener's World, that every year Monty Don put his garden to bed for the winter by top dressing with compost, putting that organic matter on top around the base of his plants, and they woke up and they were fed. And he doesn't really do a lot of fertilizing in that garden. And we thought, wait a second, we can do this. So we looked into bulk compost, which thankfully we have a local supplier. There's a lot of agriculture around here of both the animal and plant varieties. So, combine the 2 and suddenly you have wonderful agricultural compost. And it's really easy to make the switch. You just top dress and we mulch with the compost. And in just a few seasons, I would say 2 or 3 seasons of doing this, when we're digging a hole for a new plant, we're getting inches down before we see that weird backfill that really wasn't supporting the garden very well.
Yeah, the worms did all the work. So we just put that manure-based compost, probably like, what do you think, 3 inches?
Yeah, 2 or 3 inches, just getting it in there, nicely around the plants. It doesn't fade. It looks like clean soil. It does not get more weeds than bark mulch.
It also does not smell. I think that's a misconception. It is manure-based compost in our area, and it doesn't smell because it's very well rotted. It's very well composted, so there's no fragrance.
Of course, and I would say, yes, we like to push our garden to have its maximum beauty, but using compost as mulch from year to year, I bet you we could get away with not fertilizing any of our garden, and it would still look pretty stinking good.
Yes, because we're feeding the soil and the plants. Secret number 3, don't be afraid to make your garden beds enormous. I know it can be intimidating as a new gardener, and you'll want to make your garden bed small because that's what we wanted to do. But in order to give yourself those layers, the back layer, the mid layer, and the front layer, you're gonna want to make your garden bed deeper than you originally planned. I mean, Christopher, right behind us, we had this Tromnar blue spruce. Do you remember how shallow this garden bed used to be?
Oh, it was only a few feet, and that's before we even had the fence. Not to mention that tree was, what, 4 feet tall?
Probably, and maybe 3 feet wide. So that's one of the reasons why we do natural cut edging. We don't do stones, we don't do metal edging, so that we can be flexible with the size of our garden beds and expand them over time. So maybe start bigger than you originally planned.
Secret number 4 is plant tags are a guideline, not always a rule. when you're at the garden center and you find that plant and you love it, it's the perfect plant for your garden, make sure you read that plant tag to make sure that that plant is going to love you back. All of the plant tags are created as a guideline because these plants are sold all over the place. Some are all over the country. So what we have in our Zone 6A garden in upstate New York might be very different than other parts of the country for how that plant performs. Take, for instance, the size requirement. On the plant tag, this particular plant, a Winecraft Gold Smoke Bush, says it gets 4 to 6 feet tall and wide. And as you can see, I am not 6 feet tall, nor am I 6 feet wide. However,
but this makes you look very tiny.
I feel very tiny up against this Winecraft Gold Smoke Bush. This can be pruned. It can be brought back down to maintain that 4 to 6 feet tall shape. However, we've let it go because it's gorgeous and it's clearly very happy. So evergreens are another good example. Generally, the size that they tell you they're going to be is about the 10-year general home garden size, but evergreens don't stop growing when they reach that 10 or 15 feet tall. They're gonna keep going. So keep that one in mind, that the plant tag is a guideline, but not always a rule.
Secret number 5, you get what you pay for. Now, we love an end of season clearance sale, especially at a big box store where they're knocking them down 50%, 75%. In fact, these quickfire hydrangeas were $5 at Home Depot probably 6 years ago. Now, this is the first time they've reached full size. Because what happens when you buy a plant on clearance is usually it's been a little bit stressed, maybe it wasn't as well cared for or as well pruned, so the branching isn't correct. So it takes time to make up for that. So what you're saving in money, you're giving up time and sometimes health of the plant. Now, on the other hand, one of our favorite local garden centers that really tends to their plants very, very well, we bought these quickfire fab hydrangeas back in 2022, and they're pretty much at the same spot as the quickfires we had bought on clearance at the big box store. So we completely support budget shopping clearance sales, but just know that if you take the time to go to an independent, locally owned garden center that really tends to their plants well, you may pay a little bit more, but you're gonna probably get a better quality plant that isn't going to be stressed out when you plant it in the ground.
Secret number 6 is to use annuals while you wait for the rest of your garden to grow. This is a brand new border. We started this past spring, included this pondless waterfall and these curving beds, and we have lots of shrubs and perennials in here. But guess what? They're really small. For instance, we have a de Ruyter spruce. Ultimately, this will be about 8 feet tall, and it'll have this great pairing with the rose, but there's a hole next to it. So we're adding this annual in, which also gives us some fun color and helps us to learn what we might like here as a more permanent planting in the future. Another example here, we have a Caryopteris. You can't really tell because it's so small, and ultimately it'll fill this space nicely, but in the meantime, look at the Gora. It looks really nice.
It's so pretty.
Kind of flowing in the breeze. Wait, wand flower or butterfly flower?
I believe it's wand flower.
All right, I'll go with the wand flower. I like that. It kind of looks like butterflies. That's why I said that.
Pretty.
And as we come along into the back area here, we have some hydrangeas that eventually will take on size. But in the meantime, we added in some impatiens. It's a great way to learn about the texture and color that you want in a space by adding in annuals while you wait for things to grow. Secret number 7, don't be afraid to move plants. Take this rose, for instance. This is Eustacia vi, coming almost into its second bloom cycle of the season. We had it in our foundation bed, and we didn't get to appreciate it. It was tucked behind some things. We couldn't appreciate the fragrance, and it's such a beautiful rose. So we moved it here 2 seasons ago, and it's coming in very nicely. There's actually another plant, Eric, come on over here, that's gonna need some moving in the fall because over time, garden beds evolve. As we said earlier, you can see this storm cloud Amsonia, which has done so beautifully over the last couple seasons, is not such a fan of its new friend, the green giant arborvitae, which we planned for these to grow together, but it's time to move these forward, and we'll do that in fall. You can move plants just about any time, keeping in mind that they're gonna not look so great. So this particular perennial will move in fall, so it will be dormant over the winter and wake up happily in its new home.
Secret number 8, no fear-based gardening. I wish we had someone to tell us 8 years ago, don't be so afraid to make mistakes. You can't mess it up that bad. And that includes pruning. Like you can see behind us, we recently had a big storm and there is a broken branch on our eastern redbud tree. I love this tree so much. And one of the things I love most about it is its whimsical shape. But Christopher, can you see that big crack in there?
Oh yeah, that was a big crack.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just cut a little bit off right now just to see, let me see if I can scooch in here, how much damage is really done. I don't wanna step on these beautiful celosias. Hang on. So if I cut this here, how's that look from there?
I mean, actually, it doesn't look bad for the tree as far as the shape goes.
But I'm worried about this like big rip right here.
I think you might just want to take that anyway, because then it'll be able to heal better.
Yeah.
I think that's the important part. I'm not sure if we can see exactly. Yep, we can see it.
So I'm gonna go in here fearlessly, you might say, and just cut that branch off.
And now it's got a clean cut that can heal better. But my goodness, that was a big branch. And then we stand back to see what we did. It looks great.
Actually, it looks totally fine. And then I caught out of the corner of my eye more storm damage over here, a little bit of Invincible Spirit 2 right down here. Don't be afraid. Just go in.
Chop
Cut
it.
above 2 nodes. Chop it. Clean it up. Keep it fresh looking. Don't be afraid in your garden. It's your garden.
Tip number 9 is probably a pretty obvious one, but when you have a garden, you need to do a little bit of maintenance every day. Otherwise, that weekend chore is going to be a big chore. So when we go for a daily garden walk or just strolling around maybe after work, if you see a weed, for instance, some grass has decided to come up through these little serendipity alliums, I'm just going to take this out and I'm going to get rid of it. There's also a weed that, let's see if I can get this without getting poked.
That one's
too
prickly.
bad. That's a prickly one. But if you reach down at the root of it, there's not so many prickers and I got the whole root out. So every day, maybe it's deadheading, maybe you just keep your nippers in your pocket, maybe it's as simple as bringing out some twist ties that you're going to tie some things up. Just a little bit every day is going to make a big difference at the end of the week.
Secret number 10 that I wish we knew as beginning gardeners, the answer to how much you should water and how often you should water is something only you can answer. We spend so much time as new gardeners looking for other people to figure that out for us, but really the answer is right there in your garden. It has everything to do with your soil, everything to do with your lighting requirements, everything to do with the plants that you've chosen to put in your garden, and there's no magic one-size-fits-all answer as to how much you should water in your garden. So we have our trusty retractable hose reel here, which we love because it makes watering super easy and accessible, but we've also taken the time to hook up drip irrigation in our garden. Now, a lot of people will wonder, well, how often do you run it and for how long? That is totally dependent on the weather in our garden. Right now, we're in a complete dry spell. So we've been running at what, Christopher? Like an hour every day?
An hour every day. And then, yeah, it's just what's necessary at the time.
But in the springtime, it was raining almost every day, so we didn't run it at all. So unfortunately, there is no solid answer as to how much or how often you should water in your garden. And I wish we could go back in time and tell our younger selves that the answer is right outside the window. Just pay attention to your plants and your soil.
Secret number 11 is as simple as stop and smell the roses. It's so important to enjoy your garden when you have a couple weeds, when you have to do some deadheading, when you have to expand edges or move plants, that at the end of the day, you still take that moment and enjoy your garden. The garden is there to bring you joy and to feed you back as you are feeding that garden. These Lady of Shalott roses we planted right next to the terrace. So when we're sitting out, we are just bathing in this incredible fragrance. And yes, they're so beautiful to look at, but just smelling them and getting that extra sense involved is so important for enjoying your garden. It will make you feel so much better.
Secret number 12, and I'm sure Christopher would absolutely agree with me on this one, is your garden does not have to be perfect. Find those moments in your garden that bring you joy, but I remember when I first started gardening, I expected it to be pristine. If rose petals fell in the garden bed, I was like, get rid of those rose petals. If anything was out of whack, I was like, fix it immediately. But now I've learned, and I'm sure Christopher has as well, that over the years, those imperfections, those little bits of whimsy in the garden are so beautiful and can really bring you a lot of joy. Don't be afraid to, prune up a plant if it's not perfectly sized next to a Let's Dance can do. Or come on down here, Christopher. We've got like little empty spots, and you know what? That's okay. It gives your eye a place to rest. Or over here, we have 3 new little plants. One's doing very well, one's doing okay, one's not doing great at all, and that's totally fine. So the moral of secret number 12 is your garden's not going to be perfect. Enjoy the journey. It's ever evolving, just like you are as a gardener.
If you have secrets from your gardening journey that you'd like to share with our gardening community, pop those in the comments below.
And if you'd like an up-close look at our July garden, we have a mid-July garden walk video for you to enjoy. So again, I'm Eric.
And I'm Christopher.
And we're Grow For Me Gardening.
Thanks for growing with us.